Bob McCaw. I was a lawyer for a long time, and one of the great privileges of my life was to clerk for Justice Black. And there are many, many interesting stories about the justice who lived a long and storied career. But I have a couple of favorites. One of them involves the Pentagon Papers case, in which the documents allegedly stolen by from the government offices were published by the New York Times and the Washington Post, among others. And the government tried to stop those publications, giving rise to a series of cases that ultimately went to the Supreme Court. And Justice Black wrote one of the opinions which upheld the freedom of the New York Times and the Washington Post under the First Amendment to publish. Now, Justice Black is famous for his very strong support of the First Amendment, but his views weren't always as wide and as broad for the First Amendment as they ultimately became. When he was first appointed, he considered for a while restricting the First Amendment to political speech. But one of the things that you see in the Pentagon Papers case is that there the speech was about whether the United States should go to war. This is all about the beginning of the Vietnam War. And the judge went back to his view that political speech was at the very core, the very center of the First Amendment. And I remember very distinctly his coming into the office one day and calling his clerks in. We all sat there, and he recited the words of a Southern drinking song about boys who die of foreign shot and shell. And you will find those words, in his opinion, in the Pentagon Papers case, because there was his way of expressing what the very core of the First Amendment was. So that's one story. Another story that I've always loved is that when I started clerking, each of the justices had two clerks. But the Chief Justice wanted them each to have three clerks because of the workload. But the Chief Justice didn't have the congressional authority to hire the additional people, but he went ahead and did it anyway. And because he did it, he picked out a clerk for Justice Black, which was an offense in many ways to the Justice Black, because his clerks were members of his family. And you only got to be a member of his family because he asked you to become a member of that family. But the Chief Justice was very clever in this regard, because he picked a good Southern boy, and John Harmon, who later became a government official, and Justice Black got to talking about hunting dogs and life in the South, and John got invited to be a member of the judge's family and was the judge's third clerk for the year that I was there.